Get started here. Good afternoon and welcome to the Osterville Village Library. My name is Amy Wolf. I'm the programming director here at the OVL, and thank you so much for joining us today. This afternoon, we have the honor of hosting Sharon Anderson with the launch of her new book, Oyster Harbors 1929. Sharon is the founder of the Cape Cod Writers Studio and also the OVL Writers Studio, and is an expert in the field of self-publishing. As an author-publisher, she has self-published over 50 of her own books on the internet. She writes both fiction and nonfiction from a visionary background, which reflects her wisdom, insights, and an abundance of wacky humor. She is also an active member in the Cape Cod Media Center and a generous friend to the library. Without further ado, Sharon.
Thank you. I turn it on. Okay, it's on. I think you can hear me. I don't think we need.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, we can hear. Yep. Okay. Well, first of all, I'd like to introduce my family. My son-in-law, Jay, my daughter is in the back row. And my daughter is the one that made the cookies.
Yeah.
And Dorothy, please stand up. I know. Lots without her. So thank you. She did the whole presentation. She set it up. She found the right background because I was fumbling around with it. So I think she did a beautiful job. And she also wrote a book, Postcards from the Pandemic. You might remember that one.
Yes.
That's her book. Okay, so to get this program started, I like to do a question and answer. And let's see, I have 6 books to give away. So we have questions. And first of all, how many of you here are Washingtons? Maybe I'm going to do it reverse. How many of you are true Cape Codders? In other words, you're not a Washington. Nope. Well, good. Okay. Anybody here a resident of Oyster Harbor? No? Okay, I can breathe a sigh of relief. Okay, first question. And I'm gonna ask, hi, can I help you?
Oh, I was gonna ask a question, but
Good.
you weren't ready yet.
What would it be?
Were you born here?
No,
Where are you from?
I'm a driver, sure. I've been here for almost 40 years. But no, I come from Dedham. Okay, over the bridge, it's that other place over the bridge. So, first question, and by the way, I'm gonna ask you, please don't do it on your cell phone because that's kind of would disqualify you. So, first question. In olden days, a glimpse of stalking was looked on as something shocking. Now, heaven knows anything goes. Anybody know who wrote that?
No, you can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, nobody can remember.
Give us a hint. Give us a hint.
He was a famous pianist as well, a musician. He really was
Gershwin?
close.
Cole Porter?
Cold War.
Who's that?
Cold War.
Good, okay, we'll come get a book. Okay, second question. What's the difference between a rum runner and a bootlegger? I guess they didn't go to the roaring 20s. What have you got?
The bootlegger makes it and the rum runner transports it?
Close,
Okay.
very close. Very close. Anybody else?
It's gonna rotate around.
Well, all right, you came close, so get a book.
I think a half of them.
Now, the answer to that question is, the rum runners didn't like the bootleggers. There was because the bootleggers made their own brew in their houses. The rum runners, and they didn't have the dangers that the rum runners had. So the rum runners really didn't like the bootleggers. Good job. What'd you choose?
Self-publishing.
I wonder who that's for.
Yeah.
Okay, if any of you ever listened to my podcast, Cape Cod 1929. Oh. The theme, I play a musical theme before each podcast. Anybody know? Well, I'll give you a clue. It's Scott Joplin's The Entertainer, and it was written in 1904. So there was a famous movie that used that as a theme through the whole movie. Anybody think this is the?
Oh, I know too, sorry.
Anybody can, anybody?
Could it be Meet Me in St. Louis?
No, not quite.
Sting, Sting.
The same, good, yes,
Oh,
absolutely. Can you name the two characters, the main characters, the stars?
Robert, the actors, Robert
Robert
Redford,
Redford.
and, the other guy who everybody loves with the blue eyes, no. Paul Newman.
Oh, good, go get a book.
Winner.
Okay, can anyone name a famous author from the Roaring Twenties? There are several, but I'll take one.
F. Scott Fitzgerald.
Say,
F. Scott Fitzgerald.
good, go get a book. Wonderful. Okay, yes, Scott Fitzgerald, what did he write? Next question. Yeah, the book.
I already.
Oh, good.
You have one more than that.
Okay. Last question. Who was responsible for who founded the Cape Cod Hospital? You know,
This is hard work, isn't it?
I know, we didn't study. We were all playing on the beach.
Any idea? Any idea? Do I have another book? One left. Oh, Jay, would you hold that book up for me? In case you don't know it, the man on the cover is my son-in-law, the one that's holding the book. Yeah, that's when we were in, Vero Beach. And Jay was on the beach trying to figure out whether or not he would ask my daughter to marry him. So that's why the title of the book is What Are You Thinking? And that's why he's on the cover.
Oh, excellent, what a nice.
So you made the right choice.
It was a long time ago now. I'm so glad because I live with them, these poor people. Okay. Is this on? It is.
It's
Okay. I'm done with that anyhow.
Who was the
Who was the person that founded the Cape Cod?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Charles Alien, Aylint. And you know, there is a wing in there. With his, dedicated to him, but he was also responsible for the airport. The, Cape Cod Airport, the Hyannis Airport. Okay, so first slide, thank you. Okay, the book, some of you already have a copy, thank you very much. I appreciate that. What inspired me? The airport book. That inspired me to write this kind of a book. And what did I know about Oyster Harbors? I didn't even know where it was. That's how, so that began the research. But sometimes that's how books get written. Right? We have a couple of people here that have written books that I know about. Okay, the book that you're holding is set in Oyster Harbors in 1929. A young debutante who yearns to be a journalist. She's my protagonist. And she wants to also learn how to fly an airplane. She becomes a feature editor for the Barnstable Patriot. Now, at that time, back in 1929, women did not work, especially women of the class, of her class. Now, she lived in Oyster Harbors, and her daddy, well, she was royalty, or distant royalty. And so that was a social class that nobody worked, And that's what her father said when she said, I want a job. He said, women of our class do not work. So she has to fight that. So she becomes a feature editor for the Barnstable Patriot. That's also a very male-oriented journalism. It was all males, there were no females in it, very few. So, Mr. Crocker hired her, and he assigned a clumsy photographer from Harvard. And they were kids, they just finished college, both of them. And they need summer jobs, so the families had asked Mr. Crocker to put them to work for the summer, so they did. So he paired them up. And they both, as the story goes on, they both realized that they wanted to make a difference in the world. So faith intervenes, absolutely, when they find out. Oh, good question here, no, not question, fact. Most of my books have dead bodies in them. Sorry about that. So, Chuck, that's the male of the group. He finds the body washed up on shore. And that's when the beginning of the mystery. Thank you. These are the characters. Now, to be honest with you, I don't know if there was any royalty living in the Oyster Harbors at that time. So I invented it. Lord Anthony Ashton-Cooper, he's seventh in line, he's the dad. Now, by seventh in line, I mean, in the aristocracy, if 6 people in front of him die for whatever reason, he's the next king or whatever. Lady Sybil Ashton-Cooper, she's the mother. She has a secret. She's a father. But nobody knows, she writes under a pen name. Lady Antoinette Ashton-Cooper, she's my main character. She's the daughter, the reporter, and the pilot. Now, young Lord Robert Ashton-Cooper is her brother. And I based his character on, from the airport book, Robertson Ailing. And Robert, in my story, is also a pilot, and he also starts an airport, and I wonder where I got that plot.
Yeah.
And Charles Chuck, who's the male protagonist, he's an Elliot of the Boston Elliots, also invented, and he's a newspaper photographer. Any questions on that? Did I explain it well enough so you got it? You got it? Good. Okay. Real characters. Jerry Mulligan is a real character in the airport book. He was a flight instructor. Deputy Sheriff Woodward, he's also in the airport book. See, I stole all these characters. Pierre and Jean-Paul Marchand, no, those are I invented those, both of them. Hi, ladies.
Excuse me.
You're fine. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Excuse me.
The other lady, oh, please come in. No, okay, that's fine. They're two Canadian brothers, and they're searching for their other brother. And it was presumed that he had fallen off the Cunard ship. Now, the Cunard ship, in rum running times, the Cunard ship was a liner that would wait out past the 12-mile limit and unload the booze to our little rum runners. So supposedly the dead body had fallen off the Cunard ship. Now, they don't know it, but we know it, that that's their missing brother. And a real character is Mr. Crosby, the owner of the boatyard. So I stole a lot of them, not too many. Cultural issues in this story. Definitely women's rights. Class distinction, definitely, you'll see that come up. Religious separation, absolutely. That's kind of covert. Maybe, I don't know, I hope I don't get hung up for this. But Joe Kennedy, because he was a Catholic, could not live in Oyster Harbors. Religious separation. Now, unspoken bigotry, definitely. NOCD, anybody know what NOCD means?
Not our kind.
Say it,
Not our kind.
pretty close, not our class, dear, very good. Good for you. Oh, go get a book. No, it's okay. Okay, any questions about that? Where'd you go?
Went too far.
Are you in yours?
You ready?
Okay, what's the next? Oh, your turn. Yay.
So any historical novels, it's helpful to understand the context of what was that period like. And the 1920s were a great period of change in America. So the standards of living had changed. For the first time, there were more Americans living in cities than farms. There was more disposable income, access to credit, that was brand new. Much more mobility, time savings devices, and entertainment became a big deal. And this, pointer. Oh. Here's a little, anyway, this car actually was Sharon's father's car, right?
Yeah, these 1934 packet. For it.
Yeah.
I don't know where we got it either.
Um, and also during this time, the economy went from boom to bust. In between 1924 and 1929, the economy more than doubled. And it looked like there was no end in sight. There was enormous expansion of credit and then, but it certainly did crash in 1929 to everybody's surprise. In fact, just a few days before that crash, there was, lots of stuff in the newspaper about, the big boom and how, there's no end in sight, but there was. It's also a shifting political climate. There were a lot of progressive politicians that favored rights for workers and for ensuring safety, for migrants and minorities, also for women. Labor unions were thriving, but there was also a lot of racial tension and consciousness during that period. And then, of course, we had the 1919 Volstead Act, which brought on prohibition for 13 years. And then you had the rise of Hollywood royalty. Now, if I can find my.
We can help you out with some of
I
it.
don't know what this.
It's not even, it's not even
Yeah,
getting
there
it.
you go.
Okay.
We saw it
Oh,
for-
did you see it?
Yeah. For
Where is it?
I don't know, but it was there.
One more time.
Oh, there.
There
It is? Oh, there we go. Okay. So let's see who can name these.
Maybe it
Yeah.
was.
Ready, Gabo?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Joe Crocker.
No, who's this one? I forget. Which one? The top right.
Oh, right. Peter Bell,
Peter Bear?
maybe.
Okay. Yep. He's always a tough. It's Clara Bow,
Well, that's what, yeah.
Mary Pickford.
Mary Pickford, America's Sweetheart, this handsome devil.
Anybody know who that man is? Oh, come on, of course you do.
Douglas Fairbanks Jr.
Oh,
Was a real heartthrob during that time. And then, of course,
yeah.
so here's the thing, the Volstead Act went into effect in 1920. And the question was the party over or was it just beginning? Because actually it served to fuel the party that was about to begin in earnest. So let's now sort of look a little bit closer at the Roaring Twenties on Cape Cod, because it was a major turning point for this peninsula. So the local economy was in rough shape. The whaling and saltwork industries were defunct. The cranberry farms were still a vital source of income, and children were often excused from school to harvest the bogs. But public services such as lighting, transportation, and telephone were inadequate and irregular, and not really that widespread yet. But the resort industry was beginning to show some signs of promise. So, and it actually, tourism really infused the Cape Cod economy. So back between the 1700s and mid 1800s, the only way to get here was either by stagecoach, which from Boston, I think,
3 or 4 days.
3 or 4 days. And that's why you have all the, the little taverns along the way, because people couldn't go 3 days without stopping somewhere. And then also packets. And I think to come from Boston, it took about 8 hours on a packet. Hi, welcome. So the railroad came to Cape Cod in 1843. Well, it started being built in 1843. And in 1848, the first passenger train arrived in Sandwich. So bit by bit, tracks were laid, and I live very close to a railroad station. And I often think of what must it have been like to live there and listen to that clang, clang, clang as they were building it, and all the dust and dirt. So anyway, so it took, by 1873, the tracks had gone all the way down to Provincetown. In 1925, very quickly, the automobile became more affordable. The middle class was expanding, there's more leisure time for workers, and vacationing became more accessible. And at that time, in 1920, the Cape population was 26,670, and about half were children. And half were adults, and it was roughly, the population was roughly the size of Hyannis today. And it became a mecca for artists. In 1899, Charles Hawthorne opened the Cape Cod School of Art. He taught the Impressionist en plein air style of painting outdoors. And artists started to flock to Cape Cod in part because of the amazing light. And increasingly, artists fled Europe during World War I to come to Provincetown. And this was just first of several art schools established over the next few years that really promoted Provincetown as an art colony. But there certainly were other art schools on the Cape. So at the performing arts, so in the summer in New York, the heat was so bad, and of course there wasn't air conditioning. So all of the theaters would shut down. So people would, that's where the idea of summer stop theater came in. The Cape Playhouse, which is really, our crowning jewel, opened in 1927. And the Cape Playhouse Cinema, which is right on that same complex, opened in 1930. And it was the first theater to preview The Wizard of Oz before its Hollywood premiere in 1939. So one of the famous people to hang out at the Playhouse before she actually got on stage was Betty Davis. She was an usher.
Oh. Yeah.
The tea room. So this wasn't a Cape Cod phenomenon, but tea rooms, became a hotbed for women seeking systemic social change, because women didn't go out by themselves. And there were a lot of places where it was men only, and they couldn't go there either. But these little tea rooms started popping up because they were mostly middle-class women who were running them out of their home. And it was acceptable because they were, hostessing and feeding were acceptable occupations for women. And they prepare light meals in their own kitchen and, little salads, a lot of mayonnaise-based salads. So it really, and actually a lot started even before the 1920s. It's also very affordable fare for travelers. So on the Cape, some of these you might be familiar with, the Dunbar Tea Room and Sandwich, which was actually, Mr. Dunbar was supervising the expansion of the Cape Cod Canal. And so his wife was busy renovating this house and occupying herself. And I think she at first was serving tea and sandwiches in the garden. And then of course, beautiful dining room. These are just a few. The Florence Tea Room over at Silver Beach in Falmouth, excuse me, the Maganasset Tea Room in North Falmouth, the Gray Shingle Tea Room in Barnstable, and then the Windmill Tea Room in Englewood Beach, South Yarmouth. Does anyone know of any others?
No.
And there was a swinging nightlife scene on the Cape. Even though it was a small population, you had the Blue Moon, Buzzards Bay, and then the Bournehurst was on the canal at Buzzards Bay. So I'm thinking that because it was so close to the bridge, that people even could come down if they were not too far north, could just come down for the evening. The Atlantic House of Provincetown, the Rainbow Ballroom and Rollerdrome in West Yarmouth, that was a hot spot. And the Mill Hill Dancing Pavilion in West Yarmouth, which, that Mill Hill Club had been there for a long time. I think they're making condominiums there.
Nursing home, did it become?
Yes, it's like a
It's a one-year living. Oh, yeah, assisted living, yeah. So, I mean, it's amazing to me. I mean, these are big places, you know, and this was a small community, really. And of course, there were speakeasies and gin joints. They popped up all over the place. There were a couple one-eyed minis and one-legged Charlies over at Mashpee.
What does that mean,
Where is it?
what are those things?
Oh, these are
I don't understand what that means,
speakeasies,
or one-eyed, or one-legged.
one like, so,
You
I
get
was-
good focus maybe, except for one eye.
Oh.
well, I assumed that maybe she only had one eye and Charlie only had one leg. They were two different places.
Oh, it's the name of places.
But you know, even respectable establishment serves liquor very discreetly and usually in coffee cups. And then there was this swanky exclusive Casa Madrid that opened just before Prohibition ended. And it was rumored that there was a lot of gambling going on, but there was a lot of wink, wink, nod, nod, you know? And it was raided 6 weeks after opening, so we can only assume that they must have ticked somebody off. But, you know, with a hip flask, you could bring the party with you anywhere. And face it, a ton of whiskey paid a lot more than a ton of cod. And it was really tough times on the Cape. Some people were eating codfish 3 times a day. Prohibition made bootlegging rum running very lucrative endeavors, and the Cape was ideal because of the many seaports and harbors, bays, rivers, and beaches, and the Coast Guard destroyers would pursue those speedboats hauling loads to shore at night. So in a way, Prohibition may have in fact saved Cape Cod. Sharon, do you want to tell them the story of the glass bottom boat?
On the glass bottom boat, okay. One of the rum runners, thought it would be a good idea if he cut the bottom of his boat and put a glass plate in it so that he could see, because a lot of the liquor sometimes was dropped overboard and was floating on the bottom of the water of the ocean. So if he had a glass bottom boat, he could see it. So when he got it finished and he left it on shore, and a Coast Guard policeman came along, saw the boat, broke the glass, and so when he went to get into it the next morning, it wasn't, he had a hole in the bottom of his boat again.
Okay,
Oh,
so I'm gonna turn this back over
okay,
to Ms. Anderson, and she's gonna talk a little bit about the beginning of this.
okay, the beginning of Oyster
Just the
Harbors.
backdrop, obviously, for her.
Oh, sorry, what?
No, go
Did
ahead.
I talk about OU?
No.
I'm so sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. And by the way, can you put that back again, that slide? Yeah, that picture of Oyster Harbors, that's the entrance, of course, and the windmill. But that's a postcard, so we used it on the cover of the book. I think you'll see it on the cover. Yeah. So we knew that that was okay to do because it was a postcard. Thank you, thank you. Now, some founding residents of Oyster Harbors, Edward Channing. Now, Edward Channing built the first house on Oyster Harbors, excuse me. Backstory for him. His brother-in-law was the president of Harvard, and he was complaining to him one day that there was no, on Nantucket, I guess he lived on Nantucket for a while, there was no hunting, no good hunting. So so Professor Channing from Harvard President Channing told him or suggested that he go to Oyster Harbors. So that's when he built the first house. And actually, I'm not sure, well, yes, he did, he built it. And so, but it was a hunting lodge. Richard and Helen Winfield. Somehow or other, well, they were also original residents on the Cape, on Oyster Harbors, and I think Helen was responsible eventually for building the windmill that they have at the entrance. Zenas Crocker. Oh, funny, are there any Crockers here? I'm gonna talk about this one, okay. I wanted to do some research on Crocker because it's such a common name here on the Cape. And I went to Zenas Crocker, who is very active here. He has a real estate business. And I called him and I talked to him and I asked him if he knew any background for the other Zenas Crocker, who was, he owned a speakeasy at the airport or close to the airport. And we had quite a chat. But there are so many Zenas Crockers. There's Zenas Crocker, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th. Good Lord, I couldn't figure out who was who. So, now we talked to Alexis DuPont, very, very active. He owned the tip of Oyster Harbors. It's kind of on the north tip, but that's where, what's her name? Not Helen, Screechum.
Oh, yeah.
Hannah Screechum, thank you. That's where Hannah lived. So nobody wanted to buy land on that,
That point.
thank you, that point, thank you, yeah, because Hannah's ghost is still there. Paul Mellon, you know who I'm talking about, yeah. Paul Mellon and Bunny and Jay at one time worked for Bunny over on Nantucket. And the story I'm going to tell tale about a school. The story Jay told me is when he loved her. He thought she was just the nicest person. And she asked him to build her a clothesline outside because she didn't want to dry her clothes in a dryer. And he did. Yeah, sorry.
Everybody thought it was good. She wanted it, so she asked, I did. I never told her she couldn't have it.
Okay, the last one that we'll talk about is William Danforth. And you might recognize the name Danforth because it's now, he bought the farm, which is where the airport is, the Cape Cod airport is. So that's that slide. Oh, what?
Is it the Cape Cod Airport in Marston's Mills, right?
Yes, the
Yeah.
Cape Cod Airport in Marston's Mills, I'm sorry. See, I have them in my head, because never mind. Okay, we're ready to move on. Oh, okay, Forrest Norris and his grand idea now, he was an entrepreneur. And he saw the potential on Oyster Harbors. So he originally wanted it to be a private residential park for just the residents. And he sent out invitations to all the current residents, inviting them to be part of this. That's the invitation. That's a copy of the invitation. Stole it. Well, you know, you cannot get this book. I tried to buy one and they wouldn't. This is the library copy. I did. I tried to buy one. I went right to the office at Oyster Harbors and I asked, can I buy one? And he said, no, it's for residents only. So I stole it. Okay. So he sent out invitations to the current residents and he invited them to be part of his new enterprise. Because he needed backers, he needed money. And so Oyster Harbors was incorporated in 1925 to 1929. It took a while for it to happen. So Dorothy titled this one Nothing But the Best, and it's true. The Olmsted brothers were premier architects of the day. Now, he invited them to draw up the plans to.
Did you show?
Sorry. He invited them to draw up the plans for Oyster Harbors. Now, they had previously designed central.
Did you show that?
They had previously designed Central Park in New York, and also the Fens here in Boston. Now,
And I
there's a
think also
picture-
at Highfield Hall in town. Also,
Okay.
yes,
all the battery.
Yeah,
Here.
I was watching the draw.
Here we got another one.
Sorry.
They also did Central Park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did they do it or was it their father who did Central Park? I
Mm-hmm.
think it might have been their father, yeah.
Her father.
You think?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Now, there's a picture of, the hotel. Actually, it's called the Clubhouse of Oyster Harbors, beautiful. And Donald Ross was a world-renowned golf course designer. And, they had him design that. Now, I went online and I checked to see how many golf courses Donald Ross did, and a lot of them you recognize. I couldn't believe he had designed so many over the years. So the vision, and this is the map of Oyster Harbors, that's what it looks like. And, there are tennis courts up on the top, you can see that, that's where the original tennis courts and clubhouse was. The golf course is all right in the center, which would be those light colors. And then, can you see that? Yeah. And it took me a while to find the polo field. And that's on the little island just underneath it. And there's a polo field there, and there are more tennis courts. So the clubhouse is up where the top tennis courts are. But they also needed bridges because there was no, at low tide, you could kind of walk across, but mostly you needed a boat to get to from, Osterville to, the Grand Harbor or Oyster Harbors. And Crosby's boat, yeah, so Crosby built the first bridge. And then the town of Barnstable eventually built another one. Were there any questions on that? Okay, thank you. Now, lifestyles, how the other half lived. The people on the Cape would enjoy church socials, picnics, local fairs like the Barnstable Fair, but then they had a lot of local little fairs too. Wakes and funerals, which is when people basically get together, and of course speakeasies. Now, Oyster Harbors was a little different. They hosted garden parties, fox hunts. Yeah, there are quite a few pictures of fox hunt. In fact, I think that's right on the cover too. Polo matches and horse races and tea rooms. Now, the women were allowed to go through tea rooms, but not speakeasies. Now, here's my little Tony, Antoinette. She was a very modern woman. Now she's in a roadster because there's no back seat. And, this is not my Mini. It's close, but it's not my Mini. My Mini wasn't invented yet.
And by Mini, you mean your Mini Cooper.
Like, oh, yes, Mini Cooper. I don't know if anybody picked up on that, but her name is Lady, was Ashton-Cooper. Oh. Okay, next time. Sorry, that was supposed to be a joke.
Like,
Now, she was a young woman with very lofty goals, and she had just graduated from Vassar. And I don't know if you're familiar with Vassar, but at that time, it was a totally women's college. And there were quite a few people that graduated from there. To name a few, Jane Fonda, Meryl Streep, Anne Hathaway. I'll just give you three. I'm sure you recognize those names. And poet laureates. I mean, it's just a fabulous school. So she landed her job as a reporter, but they were giving her just, garden parties, and they was doing fluff stories. She wanted to do more. She was also a driver, in a car. She knew how to drive a car. Most women in her class did not drive. They had chauffeurs. And she earns her pilot's license. Now, that was a little bit of a controversy because she didn't want her parents to know about it. So with her salary that Mr. Crocker paid her, she paid for her pilot's license, her retirement year too. Now, she was very independent. She was not interested in social events or marriage. She didn't want to get married, not yet. But she also wanted to make a difference in the world. So, very independent woman for that time, that generation. She wanted to become a pilot, so she, in the book, she got her license at the Cape Cod airfield. Now, that airfield, for me, is a very special place because our Kate edited the book, and Kate and her hubby,
His family owns the
oh,
airfield.
yeah, they, I lost a word. Hang on, word search. Managers, thank you.
And they give flying lessons, both of them.
Oh, yeah, that's right, they do, they both, yeah, because Kate has her license. Kate was very helpful in the book because I knew that much about airplanes, except when I read on the internet, so she knew which ones that Tony would have used, to learn how to fly. And Tony's role model was Amelia. And by the way, for those of you that don't know, Amelia Earhart was on the board of directors of the airport, the Hyannis Airport, and she was also a stockholder. Okay, Chuck, talk about two misfits. Chuck had met her originally at her cotillion when she was presented as a debutante. And he danced with her, but he was so awkward. He stepped all over, he ruined her dancing shoes. He stepped all over her feet, but he was just clumsy. He was a young boy, not, I guess they would be about 18 or 19 then. So he was so nervous, he couldn't talk to her. And he always smelled like peppermints, she kept saying. But he was a Harvard grad, and it was interesting because his family came from new money, and her family came from old money. Now, even at Harvard, and I put this in the book, even at Harvard, his roommates kind of shunned him because he was new money, his family was new money, and they were old money. So, you know, you have your social class distinction. Anyhow, that's the difference. I love Magombas because they were in Austin, Martin, of course. So isn't my Mini, I have a Mini Cooper, it's my fourth. And I love Minis because Minnie's grandparents were an Austin Martin and a Land Rover and a Morris. So I put a little under in this book because they're beautiful. Okay. Now suddenly they become part of a big story, and this is true. Chuck finds a dead body washed up on shore. And he is, I mean, he was really shaken up about it. He had never seen a dead body before. She had never seen a dead body before, but they made it through, and they kept trying to tell the police that they had seen the dead body, and they found it, and they thought there was something kind of odd about the dead body. There was as they looked at it, she noticed a hole right where his heart would be. And there was like black around it, and Chuck took a picture of it. So it pointed to a much more nefarious, in other words, she thought he'd been murdered, not just, he didn't fall overboard for no reason at all. But this discovery puts them in harm's way, really. They get threatening letters and everything. And then. I'm not gonna tell you anymore, that's it. Okay, but before we move on, I do want to tell you two things. One, I have a podcast that I am very happy with. I love my podcast. And it's all about Cape Cod, and it's all about history, or as close as I can get. That's one thing. The other thing is I don't know if some of you know, but I do offer a writing studio, a live writing studio here at the library on Sundays, the first and third Sunday. And I think that's about all.
And what, Wednesday?
Oh, that's right, I forgot. I have a Wednesday Zoom studio too now. And it's mostly, at this point, it kind of developed into already published authors, and we're kind of investigating marketing our books, so. But anybody that, you know, wants to join, there's a sign-up sheet here. One of the prerequisites, though, if you come into the Sunday group, there is a prerequisite. You have to know how to make a paper airplane. Okay, the book. I think you can see the copies over there. And today, I bumped it up, the print copy on Amazon is for $24.99. For today, I bumped it up to 25 so that Jay didn't have to deal with all kind of pennies. So, but $5 for every book you buy is donated to the library. And I think that's it. What else did it take?